Welcome back to the Resurrecting the Ruins series, where I'm excavating these stone ruins on my land and restoring parts of them as I go. In the last installment, I was uncovering part of the wall of the second building, and since then I've been digging inside, this way, to try and uncover more of the internal flooring. Although it's what I found above the stone flooring which is more interesting. I've also been busy making several versions of a custom soil sifter I'm working on to find more artifacts, but none of them have been good enough yet. It's a work in progress and I'm still tweaking the design. You joined me a month or so ago searching for more flagstones. I found a few of these corrugated metal sheets in this latest bit of the dig. This one must have been a door, but obviously not for the stone ruins. It would have come from one of the metal sheds, which is just to the side of the ruins currently. So you might have seen some of these in the background of the videos. So there is what I've seen comments describe as a Nissan hut. It's just a basic metal hut with curved sides. You may have seen in the background of some videos, again, there's this wooden shed behind it now, but I built that wooden shed myself about 5 years ago, which was to replace another metal shed, which was made out of exactly the same style of corrugated sheeting like this. And that other metal shed, the smaller one behind this one, had a doorway but had no door in it ever. So it's most likely the door from that got ripped out and just dumped there at some point. But all those metal sheets were quite low to the ground, just above the stone flooring, the old stone flooring that I've been uncovering. And another thing I noticed when I was digging out this stone paved area a few months ago is the whole time I was digging through basically a hardcore layer. You can just about pick it out in the soil. So there's sort of a layer of turf above, and then running through the center of that, between the turf and where the stones are, you can see a kind of crushed, well, bits of crushed gray and crushed red, hardcore material of some kind of sub base. So I think there's a hardcore layer that's been put down there in the middle. And you can see bits of it here as well. And I think that hardcore layer is there because it almost certainly will have been a basic driveway for this. So this bigger metal hut, I was always told this was used as a garage. It was originally a garage structure. I mean, to the modern eye, it seems quite small, but then old cars used to be a lot smaller. But the design of it is basically, to my knowledge, derived from an air raid shelter. I mean, this one was not an air raid shelter because it's not buried and it's too big. I think what happened to my knowledge, although I'm sure there are people in the comments who know a lot more about this, is there are a lot of companies that made the millions and millions of air raid shelters that were sold during World War II. And I think they got government subsidy for that. I think you could get government funding to get air raid shelter. And millions of them were made. And then when the war ended in 1945, the same companies, a lot of them, that made these metal sheetings, they just pivoted into making different structures. So garages and sheds, outbuildings, because you could use the same moldings for the side bits. And all you've got to do is add this central panel to make it wider. And then obviously you can add as many sheets as you want going back to increase the length. And then you can market it and sell it to the British public as a garage or a shed or any kind of outbuilding. But it's just a bigger version of an air raid shelter, essentially, with no door. It's got these flat panels at the back. And there are a few logos on the metal sheets. You can see this one, Phoenix, with a royal, with a crown. But there's also another one I looked up. You can see down here it says globe, with a globe symbol, which I looked it up online. It was a logo, was a sort of trademark of a company. I forget the name, but it was based down in Neath, Swansea area, I think. So that's another area of South Wales, people who don't know Wales. It's not that far from here, maybe 50 miles. But that company went out of business in the early 1950s. So I suspect that this hut was put up around about the same time, maybe a bit later. I mean, it's possible that when that company dissolved, the stock, will have been passed on to a different company, bought out by another company, who then sold on a bit later. But I certainly think these sheetings, it certainly seems likely that these actual sheetings were manufactured no later than the early 1950s. And that was used as a garage, as I say, in the middle of the 20th century. And they then put this basic driveway in. And when they put that hardcore layer in, again, presumably for this as a garage, they must have obviously known this was here because they've used it consciously as a foundation. They've used the old stone flooring as a sub-layer to put their own hardcore on it. And the same with the metal sheeting, because it's so low to the ground, so close to the stone. They must have known it was there and consciously put it there. So I would think in the 1950s and 60s, much more of this was exposed. I would think all of it was exposed, all the walls. And there will have been more of the walls, I would think, almost certainly, and they've been stripped and used for other things. And a while back, I did do a video in this metal hut, pulling up the floor, because there was a flagstone flooring in all of this hut. And I'm actually going to use some of those flagstones, a few of which are still there, to relay the path, which is running between the arch and the gateway, the steps. That's my current project. But I would think almost certainly those flagstones were pulled out. The flagstones that were in the floor of that hut that I took up, the metal hut, will have been pulled out of the second building, because the first building, they're all still there. There were a couple that I replaced, you may remember, they were over here, but it was virtually complete. But this floor is less complete. There are a few bits and pieces of stone here. You can see parts of them. But that bit there, for example, is all bare. This is all getting covered in weeds so quickly, I need to do some clearing of this. The trouble with this part of the dig is because the ground level is quite a bit higher than it was over there, there's still quite a lot of roots left in the soil below where I'm digging, below the stones. And all these brambles and things are growing through. And it's quite difficult to keep it under control. I need to trim this bit. I think the next stage of the dig, I'm just going to carry on digging out the inside of this building It's slow progress, but I'm getting there steadily.